everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be playing some more Dimir Skeletons slash mid-range, and we're definitely a different mid-range deck than obviously the one that does really well in the challenges. A lot of their cards are rotating, so we can't necessarily rely on that forever. So here we are with blue added into our typical mono black Skeletons deck. Obviously that's not the case anymore, but we are playing cards like Phantom Interference to act as that make disappear area or a soft counterspell in terms of just protecting some of our stuff, especially when we go for maybe a whack play early in the game where we play Tiny Bones and then we play maybe a Forsaken Miner and have to hold this up for, say, temporary lockdown, or there's turns that we want to establish a strong board state. Our opponent plays a fourth land, we hit him for a lot, and then say we present lethal, but now we get to hold up the Phantom Interference for a Sunfall, for example. But other than that, we can talk about some of our blue cards because the rest is kind of standard for what we've been playing, and I made a couple of changes which I'll get to real quick, and that is playing Fairy Mastermind. This is also a rogue, which our cavern can now cast all of our creatures in our deck outside of Gix, but we are typically a mono black deck, so casting Gix is not necessarily that difficult in our list, but cavern being able to cast kind of any of these lower end creatures has been very good, and playing Mastermind actually comes up quite a lot in some of our matches here, and playing Satoru here with the lively dirge here over here anyway. And kind of the combo with that, it's not necessarily a combo per se, but we can actually return multiple creatures to the battlefield at the same time, being Satoru. And a lot of the things I do today is with Fairy Mastermind. I was really stress testing this card, and with Satoru's ability, whenever a creature enters the battlefield that you didn't cast, it's not a token, you actually get to draw a card. So when we do this with Satoru in play and bring back two creatures, we'll draw two cards. But if it's coming back with one other creature, then we get to draw one, and it helps continue to add cards to our hand, which the mono black Skeletons deck has typically struggled with once we kind of lose the early pressure that we've put on if we don't quite find lethal quick enough. And that's why we've obviously added Gix in here. But the last kind of card I put in here is Wail of the Forgotten. I forgot myself that this card exists. But what we can do with this is we can return permanents. A lot of times we can look at returning a temporary lockdown, and you might be like, oh, in normal aggro decks it doesn't necessarily work, or it would work because they have haste. But with Corpse of the Lost, dodging temporary lockdown by itself, getting to bounce a lockdown when it has, say, a Tiny Bones and a Forsaken Miner alone underneath it, that will come back with this Corpse of the Lost being 5 damage and a lot of pressure very quickly. So that helps us out a lot. And the other modes making our opponent discard, not super relevant for what we're doing. We don't have a lot of discard regardless, but it's a good added if we have to descend to 8, and then we can look at the top 3 cards of the library, put one of them in our hand and the rest in the graveyard, which helps synergize with this card and this card. And if we do have the descend to 8, we can do all 3 modes, which is very cool because then we can put the things in the graveyard and everything like that we want to, but that mode happens last. So how this will work with it will be a little bit interesting because it won't quite be in the graveyard yet. I'm not sure how that'll work, but other than that, we're off. Let's go play games. If you all like my content, please consider subscribing. I'll truly appreciate it, and let's get out there and see if we can't beat down some people with our new Dimir Skeleton deck. My opponent goes first. Sure. Oh no, not the mirror, dude. The mirror it is. Do you have the nuts? That's fine. I'll get rid of this. Don't worry, dude. We're playing the same deck. Fine. Well, you're playing probably mono black. I'm playing blue black. We'll see. We can play the case, which I think is the play. They can hit me and cast that, I guess. They can also cast that. Am I just like the removal dot deck right now? I guess so. My hands have come off the top so weird. Like I have to hold this go for a throat and remove this Tiny Bones. Sure. They play everything out. Maybe they have removal here. I can't take the risk of flashing as in this Mastermind and having it get removed. Sure. What do you have, opponent? These can't block, so now I'm gonna try to turn up the pressure myself. They're at 2 cards in hand, so playing this corpse, if I hit a land, I can play another corpse and then play a tiny bones myself. Or if they do some, I don't want to call it goofy, because that's not what it would be. But if they do something in which they like don't necessarily interact with me too well, maybe they have another cut down here. A land, so I get exactly what I want. I'll play corpse. Get a token, put this on the stack. Attack for 7, and now we're just in an all-out race that I may or may not be able to win. 7 again, plus an additional 4. Yeah, I don't quite get there. They go for the third tiny bones now. These can't block, so they have to kind of just do that. So I have to... Both of these have to attack. It's a great question. I think the answer is yes. If I hit for 4, they go to 9, and then I don't get there because Fairy Mastermind is going to have to block. But then if I can't block... Oh man, what a weird spot. I think I just have to take the risk. If they play Corpse, I lose anyway. I don't lose, but it's just like so hard to win. I just do this then. They have one last card. It's so risky, but I think I have to. I think I have to try to end the game. Seems like removal. If they have another removal spell, it is what it is. Yep. I mean, I think that was the only play that made sense. Because then I can throw the block and then I win on backswing. If I don't, then I just lose regardless. But my opponent goes first. We finally have a hand that has some skeletons in it. So we can keep here. Start off this, play this, and kind of go from there. Gotta wait for mono red to see if they have turn 3 lethal. Sure, we'll keep. Told you, chat. Always gotta wait on the mono red players. I played the wrong creature. Doesn't really matter. If they remove this, then we're happy we did that. Yep. They lightning strike the creature that can't block. Sure. Let's do this and then just like bring this back. Wow. Aren't we crazy? And look, it couldn't block. Now we tiny bones. Then we attack. And then we better triumph this Godric. I guess pitching this Forsaken Miner. Because I'll commit a crime by looking at their graveyard with the tiny bones. Sure, dude. Fine. Yes. Nothing else. I'm down to discard. Yeah, I can discard this Forsaken Miner. I can't pay for it there, obviously, but we get that off the board. I think I just go ahead and play this. Then I attack, and I think with 2 cards in their hand and 4 lands in play, target opponent discards a card. I'll target you. Obviously, I can't pay for that. And you could argue, like, why did we play Tiny Bones? We can brought back the Forsaken Miner. But I think it's much better to potentially have this Tiny Bones make contact here. Do you have a flyer? No. But I can progress here. Let's double attack. Obviously I could play Godric, but I'm gonna grab Swift Spear instead and then pay for this. And then I can... That better or is the case better? Honestly, this is probably better because then I can play case next turn, or if I find a corpse, it'll actually trigger prowess. Godric, sure. Flick shot, sure. Yeah, you're making game actions. Well, these blockers, these can't do anything anyway, so I should just go ahead and go for it. And I can just hold up this counterspell, maybe. And I can just hold back this Swiss Spear. Or do I just cast this Godric? Honestly, I'm going to cast Godric. And looking a little bit awkward. So fire, sure. You have another thing there. Might as well throw a double block. Why has it got to be so close and just not lethal? Right? 2, 5, 6, 7. Why? I guess it's this. And they might play a ground creature, so we need to make sure. Decline. What do we got? Yep, there's the ground creature. Fire. Oh, very cool. Mulligan. Sure. I guess we throw this back. Okay. Land. Not really the best draw for us. We play 23. Lands are not really where we want to be. No more lives not available. So I play this because then I can get a Gix and uncounterable, and then maybe this can make contact, and then I can draw a card. Blue white, we have to draw cards. Phyrexian is probably the best name. Yeah, I don't have any other Praetors in the deck. Am I losing my 2-1? Sure. Attack. I think that pause was a counterspell because technically you can attempt to counterspell a card coming in off a cavern. Or you're the combo deck and I'm dead. That's also possible. Put it in there. Oh, there's no more lies. Oh, it's the mill. Okay, sure. No 3 blue from them, so I don't have to worry about getting milled. But that does make this card really good. What's up, opponent? Got it? You nuts? I didn't stop my gigs, so I don't really care. Return target non-land permanent to his owner's hand, so we can make them pick that back up. Which is very cool. But this is coming in, this is naming Rogue. And then I'm going to make contact with Gix. And then I'll pay my 1 life and draw my card. Merrics are pretty cool. You could argue I should at some point get those down, but right now I'm not too worried about it. I have a counterspell plus Fairy Mastermind held up. They don't have another blue for that. If they do it this turn, I'm going to counter it. And just stop them from doing that and then play Fairy Mastermind and try to get more cards in. Fairy Mastermind. Uncounterably. Now they could anchorage me. Memory Deluge, I counter that. Faithful Mending, I also counter, I think. I countered almost anything that draws them cards. Especially considering I'm going to hit them for 2 here. And then I hold this. And then I go to combat. I would have let it resolve if my Fairy Mastermind was already in play, but they did it with it on the stack. Yeah. No counterspell drawn. We don't have many more. We have 1 more to be exact. But I play this. Do I go ahead and play one of my creatures? I guess not, right? Interesting spot. Don't have anything with flash. Sunfall sucks. I guess I go ahead and fire this off. Yeah, we grab the corpse here. And then if Sunfall happens, do I let them just absorb my thing? And I think the answer is yes. Because then I can play Miner and I can play Tiny Bones. Sure. And this kind of also forces them to Sunfall me. If they farewell me, they farewell me. Actually, I can pick that back up. That's actually really good. Never mind. I didn't even think about that when I did it. It's not often that you play this and immediately pick it back up. But Sunfall comes in. Sure. So those are gone. But don't you worry, opponent. I'm the land drawing champ right now. The game tried to mess me up by keeping my cavern open, but thankfully this Merrick's will be fine. Now we hit for a ton here, sending them down to 2. Decline, I guess. But if they even remove my stuff, I have 1 skeleton left in the yard. So if they don't have a way to get all these off the board, I can dirge, go search my library, and put 2 skeletons into play. Faithful Mending keeps them alive. Maybe, but they gotta watch, because using the blue and white here makes like things very complicated. Another whale is incredible, because if they say temporary lockdown me here, I can then bounce it and then bring all these back. If I draw the whale, but them being at 3 and being tapped out, I win regardless. So yep, because this Corpse of the Lost being so good here, we just do this and this. And then we just go and we put a skeleton in the graveyard that we don't really care about, being the Forsaken Miner. And then we bring both of these back. And then it is 5 haste damage. And then we pick up this Corpse of the Lost again. We could have played Satoru and drew more cards, but with it being lethal, because the only card they had available held up, if I can look at the battlefield here, is this Field of Ruin. So colorless. We're not playing modern. There's no solitude available, so we don't have to worry about anything there. So very cool. We come away with the dub against Control, and Corpse doing what it does best against that deck. Sure. If they play a creature turn 1, we cut it down. If not, we just play the Miner, and we get ready for the Gix play. Another 1 mana little goofball would be great. We hold a cut down up. They might fumble the bag, you never know. We had our last mono red opponent not respect a cut down. Yeah. Our opponent's nuts. Sure. I will Forsaken Miner here. I don't have a blue for the Fairy Mastermind, but that's not necessarily a big deal. We hope that they misland again and try to Ancestral Anger this Kamano. Let that happen. See if they go for anything here. I'm going to force him to do something else. It doesn't have prowess, so another spell doesn't work. Get that out of the way. So we're feeling very confident. Chant, tell me the last time you played a Gix, hit your opponent, and then drew a card when they're playing mono red. We'll take cards here. We need them for Bitter Triumph. We need them to be actually aggressive enough to win this match while they're down on mana. So we know if they don't do anything like this, for example, these are 5 spells in hand. And that's just very, very tough for us to come back from. With a Bitter Triumph available, I'm going to go ahead and get this Fairy Mastermind in play. And I'm not too scared of anything that they're going to do. I'm turning the heat up as much as I can. And I'm looking for win conditions. So I am going to go ahead and draw cards here. Especially with me drawing lands, like, I play 23, by the way. I know I bring that up a couple times, but we have 8 lands right now. Discard a card, but at least I have free discard fodder, I guess. That's a positive sign, chat. I might be able to activate Gix in this game against mono red. Ancestral Anger, I should have let resolve. Never mind. This is better. This is great. Another land, bro. Woo, we're collecting them. At this point, might as well be, you know? I'm going to play River here, and I am going to go ahead and activate this, looking at the top 3. Do I find removal, or I find 2 more lands? What is going on? Arena, I understand that sometimes you like want your players to lose, but like, let's relax. I think I just hit, and then I just like, I don't think I put myself in any danger here. I think I just decline these draws. They get out of this. They get out of this, dude. I don't know. Show me your best. I have a goofy little blocker right here. You have 3 cards. I'm at 13. Lightning Strike gets this out of the way. And the festivities pops 2 creatures. Face down card. Not gonna get that done. Block. Remove. Uh-huh. I mean, to win that game against red, obviously it took a little bit of them not hitting lands, but with mono red, we all know how many times they've had a 2-lander or 1-lander and they've come back and win. I had a great time. I won, dude. We go first. Pretty cool hand, so I'll keep. With this here, we kind of want to go for maximum value. So I'll Cavern Rogue, put this Miner in. Could be Tiny Bones instead. Rogue here. Play the Miner, of course. Tiny Bones is sick, but we'll find out what our opponent's on. Looks like blue-white. Cut down, obviously not that great. I think I play Satoru first. And the reason I think I play it, because I don't get to attack with Tiny Bones here anyway, and this blue-white, there's not realistically a chance that there's something good in my yard. Whereas, like, playing this, I'm going to get to be super aggressive. The token doesn't count for Satoru. Maybe they think it does, so they might march it. Which is, like, perfectly fine. They have to take a card out of their hand to do this. And then the reason I also argued that I don't get rid of Tiny Bones is because of all their artifacts. Sweet. So they can play Synthesizer here. Then I might be able to cut down their token. It's definitely going to be an awkward one. Playing March. Ooh, that's actually huge. I'll play my Tiny Bones. This is a counter spell. They get lost this. I guess. Here, I thought they were artifacts, but they're having a good time, I suppose. Sure. Here. It'll hit a land, so it's not. Oh, corpse lost. Pog. My token. I don't know why I did it on Tiny Bones. I just kind of auto-clicked with my brain thinking I had haste. But we hit, and then we played land, and now we have this corpse lost off the top, and they're not able to beat it. Okay. Because the problem is Synthesizer, if you play it, like, it doesn't do anything on ETB, which is arguably the hardest part about Synthesizer. But sure. This one. I can use this to pitch this and replay it later, so that's kind of why we're opting to do this route. Second Satoru, not good, but so if that's the case, I'm gonna go ahead and play this Forsaken Miner and attack. No blue mana, but we have a lot of blue mana in the deck. We just have to find one. And we're playing against combo here. I would assume this is Sultai. Huh? I guess. I mean, sure. That's pretty cool. It's blue-black poison control. Yeah, is what it is. So I'm gonna play this, force him to remove it, and then I'm gonna attack because we got this to make a poison, this to draw cards, this to -4/-4. Is this me sacking a creature? They refuse to cast it. Okay. With founding, you kind of have to pick. Sure. I'm having a good time, I guess. Aren't you guys? I'm having a blast right now. Against blue-black, I hate creature deck. Sure. You never know. They might play a creature. I'm going to cast their founding, dude. That's me. I'm the cast their founding guy. Maybe. It is a permanent, but we'll see. It's got a hit. Sure, I guess. Never know, because I might hit my spree card. This one? I'll mill. I'll play this game. I don't think this game's very good for me, but these cases going away is kind of cool. This counter spell in hand. Yeah, it is cast off my cavern, naming rogue. Sure. I don't even have a thing for this to cast in there. I missed, which is quite funny, but sure. I'm dying to poison control because this deck is strictly creature removal based, and I find another spell that does not help me at all in this situation. Tiny Bones, I understand you're dead here. Do I have to kill my Tiny Bones so they can't proliferate? I mean, I think I have to just draw it. Like, I don't think there's a choice there. Problem is, they don't play any creatures. So I have 3 dead cards in my hand, it seems. We're almost 20 cards deep, and they haven't played a creature yet. And I haven't found, like, the Corpse of the Lost to put actual pressure on my opponent. I've found my removal to play against almost any other deck in the format. Yeah, I guess. On the 5. Because obviously my life total doesn't matter here. Hit. This, I guess. Because Corpse of the Lost becomes lethal. They haven't held up mana at all. They do have probably the counter spell, if I have to imagine. Down to 4. This removal in my hand is so annoying. Especially not finding extra Forsaken Miners, because even if, like, my Tiny Bones dies, I don't get to do anything. I mean, I can get my case creature, I guess. But it's going to get countered. Sure. I mean, I have to cast it. That's the 4th copy of that. Really? I think this, I just go ahead and kind of counter. How much removal my opponent has is absolutely absurd. Removal, 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 removal. They're probably playing like 4 of each, if I had to guess. And now they're going to exile my Forsaken Miner, probably. Mill? So surprised you decided not to cast something. Corpse? Combat? This one? Force him to interact now. Exile that creature instead. That is fine. We're just looking here. Return. I don't really care about the Tiny Bones. My opponent really felt like I did, but they don't have things in there to cast other than the Founding of the 3rd Path, which I'm like lying by casting it pretty much. I don't really want to cast it. I wanted to make my dirges good, but I didn't want to make him overly good. This is, I think now they're deciding whether or not they go for like the poison route. Yeah, it's pretty good. 3 mana. Go for it. Oh, well, you're gonna give me a draw card. Oh, it's 1 because it's cheaper. I thought it drew more cards if it was the opposite. Sure. Not having blue is going to cost a little. It's just exile. Sure. 2. Like, I obviously could remove it, but that's not where we're really at. I have to make a Mirix token here. Look at this, like, synergy, by the way. Like, is it is it like not just goofy enough that my bottom 7 cards are like the exact same cards? All right, we can activate this whale here and maybe find a corpse of the lost. Maybe. The top 3 cards. Yeah. They probably have some form of removal. Maybe a counter spell here. That's tough. We're really looking for that corpse of lost to try to win. But here we go. I have a Mirix activation. I'm at 7. Look at all this that we had to try to play through here. Good game if you got it. Oh, they don't. Got a little doggo. Oh, we go first here. Very sick. With this removal, we genuinely like one of these to be Tiny Bones, because if they're like a lower creature deck, then we get to like cut down that creature and then we might be able to cast it. But here, like, I'm perfectly fine playing a Forsaken Miner, cut downing a thing, playing another Forsaken Miner, because 2 damage does do more than 1. I know, hard math on chat. 2 more than 1? What do you mean? That's not good, chat. Might have to get rid of the land. Oh, I'm cutting that thing down for sure, bro. We have this Tiny Bones. We'll see if they block. I might have to hit their Amalia out of the way. Definitely an interesting option. What is the choice here? Is it going to be Amalia? It is. Now we have an option, chat. We can cut down this creature. And I think that's just a choice, right? Yeah. I think I just get this out of the way, because I don't want them to trigger this for free, because if they're struggling on mana and they gain that life and they hit that mana for free, I'm going to be upset. I could also, well, I'm just going to pay 3 life here. I'm going to pay 6 life. White and Amalia, partner. And then I'll hit. And the reason I'm doing it this way is so they can't recast this. I guess decline. I spammed the button. But also, I always saw the decline button come up. But yeah, this is 100% a mistake, because I would love to cast that. Why? Yeah, I forgot I had to re-click it. I'll play some Molly because it's obviously like hard to remove. And now the problem is, like, you can't crack the food and then gumdrop here, right? You can't do that, but my Death Toucher is still just good. I mean, realistically, this is just an attack out situation, right? Get in there. This is 7 damage. So one thing has to... Something has to be blocked. Okay, outro time. Alright, here we are, chat. This is the list that I'm actively running. I'm going to pull the blue cards over here to kind of get a look at it, or separate them a bit, just so we can kind of isolate them a little bit more. But this is where I ended up. Now, you'll notice a couple of things that I did, just because I think whenever we normally have one floating around, it should be almost enough to get there, or the redundancy is a little bit struggling. For example, I think a couple of the games we started with too many of these in the opener. It being like kind of 4 mana is tough, because the problem is, if this is the creature that's dead, we can get that back in plenty other ways by either cut downing, bitter triumphing, or go for the throating and causing like crimes that way, and that comes back. Or like we have the tiny bones, most of the time is when it's gone, we don't really have a way to bring it back, but necessarily the most important thing of all time. But along with Satoru is solid, and I actually enjoyed a lot in this list because of the draws. We haven't quite gotten a chance to have Satoru in play and then dirge and bring back 2 other creatures, and that is sometimes the downside of being such an aggro deck, right? Is sometimes you end the game before you get to do some of the cool stuff, but it's really there for the end game grind factor that can provide, and the additional card draws that can provide at times. Like the amount of times that we bring this back with a Fairy Mastermind is in general pretty strong. Just because if our opponent wants to draw more cards, we get more cards. If Satoru's entering with this, it draws a card, obviously. Sometimes we can also do some cheesy stuff with it where we return 2 of them, and then they'll both see each other enter. Legendary rule will happen, then we draw 2 cards if that's really where we're at. In terms of like, say we're both empty-handed, and I'm like, I want to put maximum cards in my hand that I can do that. But other than that, Gix is pretty cool. Corpse of the Lost is pretty cool. I think in the 3 mana slot, I think Gix is just the best pair for this deck, and maybe there's like a blue-black card that can go in here in terms of that, or just like a blue card. But I do think Gix, along with this Corpse of the Lost, is typically just the best place you can be. The other thing is with Gix, right, if we do play like a 1-drop and say a Satoru even, or say we have those crazy hands where we do Tiny Bones, double Forsaken Miner, and the Corpse of Lost isn't there and Gix is, we're going to start drawing 3 cards. And we saw the one game where we flooded quite a lot, and Gix literally saves us in that game. If we're not drawing that hard, we are never finding any other spells with how many lands that we actually saw in that match. The other card that impressed me, and I kind of forgot it existed a little bit, chat, because we only played it in the kind of self-mill decks, is Wall of the Forgotten. This card will commit a crime because it will target most of the time. If not, it helps us dig to find our good cards. One of the problems is never being able to find this. What's a good way to find it? Well, the Forgotten. It is a sorcery. That's obviously a downside. It's definitely the worst downside of this card. But our opponent discarding card, great. It targets our opponent. They discard. Return target non-land permanent to his owner's hand. If we have a Corpse of the Lost and we've been temporary lockdown, this can bounce that lockdown and then give us our skeletons back. I think we brought that up in one of our control matchups. But we're generally pretty good against control regardless because of the haste creatures and being super aggressive super early. And I do like that addition with Fairy Mastermind having flash. But sometimes we do get to the point that this is turned on, and then we can actually go ahead and do a couple of modes. I think we get to do 2. Any more you cast this spell, choose 1 or more instead. Oh, we can do all 3. Sweet, I forget it's all 3. But other than that, I thoroughly have just been enjoying this deck. The main thing, I'll bring it up in the intro probably, so it's kind of a recap on that, is Standard is in this weird lull period now. This always happens when a new set comes out. We're getting spoilers. Everybody's excited for the new stuff. We're not necessarily excited to see the old stuff anymore because the format is going to completely warp and change, right? There's not going to be a whole lot of things that are necessarily going to look the same. Like a skeleton deck is working well now. It might be worse post-rotation. So always be careful crafting now. I'd always kind of wait. And honestly, I'd wait until after the content creator event as well, because a lot of times every one of them are building pretty casual decks for the most part. They're not really trying to min-max and pick the value. They're playing as many new cards because obviously they got to clickbait that into like their YouTube videos, which is not a problem. It's just how people do those events. It's supposed to be a casual event, and that's how it's supposed to be. So other than that, I mean, I enjoyed playing this. I think the blue cards have helped in a lot of spots, whereas like other than Gix and Corpse, when we're kind of playing the mono black variation of the deck, we lose a little bit of power in terms of like if we don't have those, we're kind of like stalling around. We might not hit the lands or we're slowing down. And I think these cards can help keep us super relevant here. But outside of that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.